The sound of running water echoed through the small apartment, soft steam curling under the bathroom door when Daniel pushed it open, exhausted after another 12-hour shift. But the moment he stepped inside, he froze so suddenly his breath caught in his throat. A woman stood over the sink, her clothes drenched, her face pale, and her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and surrender, as if she had reached the edge of every battle she had ever fought. And before he could speak, before he could understand how she even got there, she whispered words that cracked something deep inside him. "I had nowhere else to go." Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the magic of unexpected connections, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more hearts. Daniel was a 32-year-old single father who had spent the past 3 years learning how to navigate life with quiet resilience. Ever since his wife, Mariah, passed away unexpectedly, the world had never quite felt steady again. With a 4-year-old daughter, Emily, depending on him, he had learned to push through exhaustion, loneliness, and the crushing weight of bills that never seemed to end. He worked 2 jobs, one at a repair shop in the afternoon and another at a small diner during the late shift. He barely slept, rarely talked to anyone, and lived as if life was something he just had to survive rather than experience. Each morning started with making Emily's breakfast, braiding her hair as neatly as he could, and telling her stories to make her smile, because even though the world had taken so much from him, he refused to let it take her innocence. The building he lived in was old, the walls thin, the pipes always making sounds that echoed into the night. But it was home, or at least the closest thing to it. He had grown used to small discomforts, the cold tile floors and the loneliness that lingered in every room, especially the bathroom where he once used to watch Mariah sing while brushing her teeth. But today, loneliness was replaced by something else, something startling, unexpected, and deeply unsettling. The woman standing in front of him was young, probably mid-20s, with dark hair matted from rain and trembling hands gripping the edge of the sink. The window above the bathtub, always slightly loose, must have been how she got in. Her clothes were soaked as if she had been running through a storm, and her entire presence radiated desperation. Daniel wasn't the type of man who panicked easily, but seeing a strange woman in his bathroom shook him in a way he couldn't explain. Yet something in her eyes, something fragile, broken, made him pause instead of lash out or call the police. She didn't look dangerous. She looked defeated. She looked like someone who had run from something far worse than a locked door. Her quiet confession hung heavy in the air. "I had nowhere else to go." That single sentence felt eerily familiar, as if he had once said it himself during the hardest nights after losing Mariah. She told him her name was Leela, her voice barely audible over the steady drip from the shower head she had accidentally bumped on. Daniel listened as she explained that she had escaped an unsafe situation, one that left her feeling small and powerless. She had been wandering for hours in the freezing rain with nowhere safe to turn, and in a moment of fear and instinct, she climbed through his window because the apartment lights were off, and she thought no one was home. Daniel found himself staring at her, torn between fear for his daughter's safety and the strange ache of empathy in his chest. Life had taught him not to trust easily, but life had also taught him what despair looked like. And right now, Leela was its living, breathing form. As he handed her a towel and allowed her to sit at the edge of the bathtub, he felt the emotional tension in the room shift. Something inside him softened, not because he was reckless, but because he was human. The more she spoke, the more he realized she wasn't just lost physically. She was lost emotionally, running from a life of manipulation, emotional harm, and a relationship that had crushed her spirit slowly over time. Her story wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, the kind of pain that hides behind small words and lowered eyes. For the first time in months, Daniel felt something other than exhaustion. He felt a sense of purpose that wasn't tied to bills or responsibilities. He felt the familiar stir of compassion he once believed had died with his wife. Over the next few days, Leela remained distant and cautious, sleeping on the couch, barely speaking unless spoken to. Emily, with her gentle innocence, became the bridge between them. She would climb onto the couch each morning and offer Leela her crayons or stuffed animals, trying to chase the sadness she sensed in the woman's silence. Slowly, Leela began to smile, not fully, not freely, but enough to show she was trying. Daniel watched these small interactions with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Yet he also knew the situation wasn't simple. Trust didn't grow overnight, and broken people didn't heal quickly. But something unexpected was happening, something fragile yet undeniably real. Leela began helping around the apartment, folding laundry, washing dishes, reading stories to Emily. She did these things quietly, almost apologetically, as if she expected to be told to stop at any moment. But Daniel let her because he could see the healing it brought her. And in some unspoken way, it began healing him too. One evening, while Emily slept and the apartment was washed in soft lamplight, Leela finally told him the full truth: why she had run, why she had felt cornered, and why she had risked climbing through a stranger's window. Her voice shook, and tears slid down her cheeks as she described the emotional harm she endured, how she had been made to believe she was worthless. Daniel listened quietly, not interrupting, not judging, just being present. And in that presence, Leela felt seen for the first time in years. But healing isn't a straight path. A week later, her past came knocking, literally. Someone from her former life had tracked her down and was pounding on the building door, shouting her name. Panic hit her like a wave. Daniel felt her trembling beside him, her breath quick and shallow. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and whispered that she was safe, that he wouldn't let anything happen to her. And when the shouting continued, he stepped